Hi, Jianggan, you made it. Welcome.
Yep. I'm trying to get your
Ethnic.
Ethernet
Ethnic
adapter
adapter.
to work. It just doesn't work because I have two
Yeah.
USB-C ports on my laptop, and obviously when I use the adapter, so one USB port is occupied by connecting to the adapter to the Ethernet. But then I have the mic, which uses another, which is of a different. Shit, I can't even move it.
Okay. Well, this is the
Oh,
improvement.
fuck.
So this is the week over week improvement of quality. So at least you got the adapter, right?
Yeah, I lost my mic, so I'm not sure whether that's the improvement in balance. Look at this.
Yeah, yeah. See, this is the problem with like regular MacBooks and not MacBook Pros, right? You don't have enough ports to do this kind of content. So, but like with enough adapters, it should be able to
Uh,
work.
so I don't need the mic
Well, I mean, what
because the sound.
it sounds
You,
okay.
you will
I
sound a lot
mean,
sexier with the mic.
oh yeah, you sound much better, like
Yeah.
quality wise. People take you more seriously, you know. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 31 of the LLB podcast. And we are 3 for 3 for this year. This is the third episode of the year. With us, we have Joon Chan coming
Hello.
from KL. Yes, we had him from last week. He decided to join us again. For Jianggan just missed it, but we just talked about his My Little Pony event and what it took to set it up and how he thinks about it strategically and how to grow this kind of events-driven business with IP from Hasbro. So Jianggan, maybe you could watch back and listen later, but it was very interesting. Then also hailing from Singapore, we have the information superconnector. Jianggan, how are you?
Good.
All right. So this week's topic was primarily we discussed to be China driven, hoping that people are interested in this. So let us know what you guys think. For me, I had three main ideas, but Jianggan primarily wanted to talk about the China population decline problem and the implications, and also a little bit around the Hong Kong stock market and the big drop that we saw recently. But to start off, I was thinking let's just talk about the general outlook for China.
2023 saw increases in demand in services, manufacturing, investments, and public infrastructure stimulus.
But this is on a strong backdrop of deflationary pressure with weak consumer confidence, right? And part of that is like the big drag on real estate sector. So I think going into 2024, it seems that growth is still there. World Bank says 4.5% GDP growth. China Academy of Sciences says 5.2. It depends who you talk to. It seems that things are not so clear, especially in the global economy and with China. Manufacturing seems soft. Demand for consumer goods seems soft. Inflation is still probably can be something persistent, like what I've been hearing about. So what do you guys think about the outlook for the Chinese economy this year? Jianggan, you want to go first?
I think John Stark should start
Well,
first as
I think it's doing great.
objective
I
observer.
think it's doing great. From what I understand, right? The real estate sector is deflating, yes, but the manufacturing and industrial sector is going up, and people say 5.3% growth or 4.2% growth, but in terms of local currency growth, I think it's way higher, right? It's measured as 5.3 versus the US dollar, and the yuan and US dollar has depreciated around 7% throughout the year. So how do you, in that terms, how do you look at that?
I actually have a
Yeah.
question. If you don't watch the video, can you tell June apart from Ronnie Chieng?
His
Probably
voice
not.
is different.
Yeah, its voice is a bit different, and I'm not as funny.
Well, I don't know.
He'll probably say the same thing. Yeah.
I don't know, man. You can be very funny at times.
But I tell you what, Ronnie Chieng
No,
is
just,
he's from the same dialect group as I am.
Which is
He's Fuzhou also.
Hakka? Oh, Fuzhou. Okay.
Fuzhou,
Yes.
famous for fish
Yes,
balls.
yes.
Okay.
So Chieng is a Fuzhou last name.
That's why.
Yes.
That's why.
So actually, Jun, you don't think there's going to be a slowdown?
I don't think it's slow. I mean,
So you guys also similar.
what do you mean by
Sorry,
slowdown? I think the only slowdown you can see is less Chinese tourists going abroad to the countries they used to go to. And I
Yeah.
tell you the reason
Well-
why, is because domestic tourism is convenient, right? And good enough now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. At least local consumption is strong, right? I think that's a fact for China.
And not
but
only that,
then-
you got to take into account also, that the propaganda factor of Western propaganda and Chinese propaganda also takes into play here, on whether a person decides to go or to somewhere where a lot of people dislike them, and their own government is telling them to dislike them too. So all this very emotional kind of decisions come about.
Okay. Jianggan, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be a slowdown this year or not?
Do all of the people from Fuzhou like sound similar, or just you and Ronnie Chieng?
Well,
No,
I mean, it makes sense. People from a certain dialect group, have parents, right? And the parents would have that dialect accent, and somehow this would get passed down to the second generation. So Ronnie Chieng and I have in common that we are both Malaysians. We're both urban, and we have
stuck in my head now.
And we have this dialect group as parents. So the way we speak would be a bit different.
You were both born in the mid 1980s,
Yes.
and you probably received the same education from like teachers who were taught by the same a master teacher or whatever.
He would probably have went to the same college as I did in Malaysia, in PJ, Taylor's College. Yeah.
Okay. I think you only went to that college as well. Okay. Anyway,
So I have you would say Fuzhou influenced Damansara accent.
Okay.
What the fuck is that?
I could see it.
I think Alex for one episode we should do Jianggan and Joon talk. I mean I don't know, play clips of Ronnie Chieng and they have Joon talking and to see that.
Okay.
Go
Yeah,
apart.
we'll have to get an editor to do this to split that. But I could see it.
Anyway, sorry. This thing was just in my mind for the last. But back to China.
So that's my view from my honeymoon over there. I went to so many places in nearby urban Shanghai, right? I took the train out, and they were just.
Why did you go to China for honeymoon?
Well, why not?
Because China number one.
It's a beautiful place. I went to Wuzhen. Wuzhen is like this water town outside of Shanghai, and I was like so impressed by it. I thought it was like as good as any place in Switzerland. Well, I was last in Switzerland like 10 years ago, right? During my college and university years. I thought it was nice. Yeah. From what I hear now, maybe it's not so nice anymore. But it's clean, it's modern, it's a lot more affordable. Yeah. I'm very impressed. Like the Chinese government has this list of tourism sites where they give A's. So there's a whole bunch of sites that's rated 5 A's. So we only go to the 5A ones, and they're fantastic.
Well, look, I think it's set up for mass tourism, right? So it's like you said about events. People want convenience, and Chinese tourism is really, really optimized. Like
now it's really, really
walk
convenient.
A little bit, and then but then it kind of takes away that ruggedness and like a spirit of adventure. It's like it's just really catered to like really big, and it is kind of like a turnoff for people looking for different experiences. But it's good enough if you want a little bit.
I mean,
I think at least if you look for that kind of experience, you go for like 1A tourist sites. I think June went to all the 5A ones.
Yeah, maybe. But also I don't want to die, so I don't know. I've seen those videos, man.
Yeah. 1A tourist sites, no. I went with my wife. If I just myself, I'll be a bit more adventurous.
Yeah.
There was once I was in I think outside Beijing, and I mean some friends I think from France, they wanted to they were visiting me in Beijing back then. They wanted to go to the Great Wall, and we decided to go to a part of the Great Wall which is not a tourist site, which is basically wild, right? I mean, because you have like long stretches of the wall which are not protected, not maintained, and just wild. So it took us, we hired a driver, took us there. It took us like 3 hours to climb up, because it's like you climb up the slope and with falling stones and stuff. We got to the top, and we realized that, okay, it's much smoother on the other side, right? You just walk down like a breeze, and there's a small village there. So we went there, knocked the door at one of the households saying that, hey, we're hungry. And they said, oh yeah, you can buy lunch here. So they actually sort of started their fire and cooked lunch. So we called our driver. It took us a while to get some signal, and when we called our driver saying, hey, we're on the other side of the wall, just pick us up. The driver said, fucking hell. It takes 25 kilometers to go to the other side, and it's rugged terrain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, you get this kind of like adventure.
Okay.
That's some size.
Fair enough. I mean, China is so big and diverse. I mean, people think of it as one big homogenous block, but it's really not. Like everywhere you go, it's very culturally different. A lot of dialects or tribes or foods and adventures, like you said. So I could see that.
Yeah.
But I'm still impressed that you decided to go there for honeymoon, because most people go to, like, I don't know, Maldives.
How long have you known June? Come on, June is like China number one, man. Come on.
No, man. I've never always been like this way, man. Like I mean, I got my first impression of China when I lived there in Shanghai in 2012, and back then I was already very impressed, right? Then
Yeah.
throughout the years, I spent a lot of time reading. I get views from the West, I get views from Europe, from Australia, from Southeast Asia, and I see this country just growing and doing things right, and I'm enjoying its products, I'm enjoying its content. It doesn't do anything that I feel is morally wrong, you know, from where I'm sitting. And when I go there to a layman, I see, hey, there's no problem with the economy. There are buildings everywhere. Things are getting built. Infrastructure is getting better. People are busy. Restaurants are full. Shops
Yeah.
are full of people. I mean, yeah. So there's no signs of economy in trouble to me, to the layman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you talked to any businesses there, like business
Oh
owners
no,
and
no,
stuff?
I wasn't there for that. We only went there to see things and eat food. So if you were to talk to a business person, obviously I think they would say different things, right? But have you done that, Jianggan? What do they say?
I talk a lot with business owners from China, so I think most of them are kind of between anxious and pessimistic, and probably a bit of both. So COVID certainly took a heavy toll, right? I mean, for a long time you couldn't plan your business,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and lots of things were sort of up in the air. And when COVID was finally over, and people were expecting some kind of recovery, but that recovery lasted for like 2 months, and then business became hard again. So I mean, various reasons. I do think that the crackdowns of different tech sectors since 2021 is still, I think, rattles people's mind.
Wow. Really?
So the government people are
So
still
that
worried,
affects private
and I think
investment a lot, or the confidence?
I'm not sure how much that translates into dollar
Yeah.
terms, but it definitely affects people's sentiment. I see the government has been trying really hard to reassure the private entrepreneurs and the business owners, um, but I think people needed something
hmm,
more, to something like not in a piecemeal way, right? Okay, I give you this incentive, I lower the interest rate, I make it easier for you to get
Something more
loans.
direct stimulus.
I don't know. I give this. I I think people need something else for the confidence.
Okay.
I do think the market is still there, the demand is still there, and the capacity is still there. And of course, part of this confidence is
hmm,
not really only China's problem, right? I mean, export has been
yeah,
impacted. I mean, of global demand, inflation, etc., and raw materials. I mean, the price is going up. So there are lots of things coming together. And of course, when that happens, it's much easier to blame the policy. I mean, you guys in Malaysia, you read the papers, people always blame the policy for whatever challenges they face. But I think people need something to boost the confidence. So last week there were like a number of
hmm,
um, sort of statistics that came out. Okay, economic growth 5.2, not fantastic, but above the target nonetheless. Was there was some statistics about? I mean, what was that about? Um, can't remember, but I think overall, so the news is about economy is quite nuanced, right?
Yeah.
Then the population issue, which rattled some people, although that it's a long-term problem, right? I mean, it's not going to drastically change the population in the next 5-10 years, but they need to sort of make drastic changes, so that, I mean, 20 years you don't have a massive issue of not enough young people and too many old people.
Okay. So
But that's many things coming together and to people's mind, and nothing particularly excessively reassuring.
hmm,
yeah.
So I think that's the reason why people's like sort of confidence is a bit dim.
Oh, so you think the China population structural problem factors into the business confidence and investment for the future?
Headlines, man,
Headlines. Yeah.
like headlines. So I mean, in the West as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have headlines after headlines, which affect people's confidence, investors, business owners, and stuff.
Okay. So fundamentally,
But I'm just
so go ahead.
okay. I'm just curious why they announced all these numbers on the same week. I'm just hopeful that, okay, I mean, maybe they have a strategy of releasing all the bad news and then all
Price
the
it
good
in.
news will come. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe perhaps the biggest factor in the growth of an economy or the size of its dynamism or whatever is in fact population. So if you have declining number of young kids now, in the 3 to 4, 5 to 6 year old range, what do you think? Is the effect on what's going on in the world gonna be greater than 30-40% less people in the next generation?
I don't know.
I mean, it's very obvious, right?
Alex, you're
One
probably
less
better.
consumer, 5 consumers versus 3 consumers. 3 consumers is automatically like 6% smaller than 5. That's a 40% drop. And that's way more than any, 3, 4, 5% up-down growth that you get, with just GDP.
Well, I mean, this has been like in the news cycles too, though. This is exactly what like Elon Musk says. Like people just need to have more
Yeah,
babies.
I
And
think
at least
he's thinking on a very high level. Is the most obvious thing. Like if you look at Japan,
yeah,
right? So many schools have like half enrollment or like are closing down.
yeah.
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 So that's a bit obvious. So that's saying, hey, this whole town used to be, working, and now it's like, half full of people and they're all old. So how would that be?
Well, we know the correlation, right? With the rise of wealth, there's the correlation to lower fertility rates and population drop, and essentially what we're seeing is a decline in Western civilization. Then, because if you look around the world, where are the people who are having increasing fertility rates, right? And that's going to be a big structural shift.
Yeah.
Right. Now the question is like, what it's always about timing for business and what we're doing, right? So like, will it happen within our generation where we have to really consider that, or are we in a tail end where it's gonna be our kids' problems and we can still ride that rocket ship up on the old models?
I think what I'm trying to paint here is like I think the news and the world and somewhat us too, right? We're so focused on okay, how is technology doing? How is this sector doing? How is that this? How climate change? But one of the biggest crises that we have right now is existential, right? Like if there is a TFR below 2 and right now it's below 1, 0.6, 0.7, right? That means the next generation can only procreate at a much slower rate. 100 of us now, 50 in the future, and the 50 might have another 50, and we're back at 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if the 50 don't have 50, have 25, then we're down 25%. So
existential to what? Like
I mean,
what?
One generation is 20 years. So in 40 years' time, in our lifetime, right? If this is not fixed, we'll be seeing a huge population decrease that at that point can't fix, because then they would have to have 4 kids or 5 to 6 kids to get back to where we are today.
Yeah. But I mean, like, what? So, what you think this ends in like the ends of the species, or like?
No. I think it's a huge civilizational change, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And like this is how Elon Musk thinks. I think he's right. Like we should be paying way more attention, right, into ensuring that all the wealth that we have, right now, can be somewhat used to have at least 2 children, per household, just to keep ourselves at where we are.
And that's not even enough, right?
2 to maintain, 2.1 to grow very slowly.
Well,
if we have 3,
yourself.
we're in trouble.
Yeah.
3 will grow like crazy, 1.4 becomes like 2 billion.
Well, this is also the problem. You can't really plan for these things, right? I mean, look, the reason why China is where it is today is because
that's what you say. Like
control
we can't plan for these things, but the question is, can you, right? I mean,
yeah.
If there's a law that says,
level,
if there's a law that says tomorrow any family with an income of more than $100,000, right, has to have 2 kids or more, right? And it's law. You might not like it, but it's.
How do you enforce that?
I mean, there was a time where the 1-child policy was enforced, so why can't you have a 3-child policy?
Well, that's the exact problem. You you don't know the effects of your decision. Like China didn't know like how much it was going to hurt them by enacting that. Look, you could see the policy, right? 2016, 2 children. 2021,
but the argument now is,
you have
right,
3 children.
That policy didn't really, the less and less kids as you get wealthy is common, right? Because both people work, they want different lifestyles, and it always shows itself in all countries. So whether the effect of the 1-child policy, maybe it had some effect. Maybe 20% of the effect was that, right? So yeah, fine. So I actually worry now. Like, okay,
I see what you mean. Okay.
Well, should I be worried about population? Is that the biggest worry of our time next to climate change or whatever? Maybe climate change is not so important compared to population, because population will kick us in the ass in 20, 30 years' time.
Well, there's two thoughts to that. Like, is a change in, like, will climate change continue to be a problem because it's permanent, and then a population decline makes that unfixable, right? Or if the population declines, climate doesn't become a problem.
The population decline will fix climate change.
Maybe, right? That's the other thought, right? So, but we don't know. So,
oh, it's definite. Like we'll need half the amount of food. Right, we'll put out half the amount of energy.
Unless we've destroyed all the ecosystems because we were so big, and you can't reverse that, right? Like, there's like a point of no return,
So we're going to malnutrition. So far we had technology to keep up with our population growth, yeah. But now we know our population growth is not in line with technology. We could have more. On our current technology, we could have more people. The problem is now, right? Even if we want to have more people, it doesn't seem that we're getting there. We're going to have a big decline in the next generation if this is not fixed.
Then you mentioned about food, and you think about all the other consumer industries and all the value chains upstream, right? I mean, you have demand cut by half, essentially.
Yes.
So all the business will decline.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a smaller pie, a smaller economy, right? Or you could say, there'll be double the goods for half the population. But I don't think it works like that. Yeah, supply and demand always meet, right?
No. What do you guys think then? Do you think if this is a big problem for China, or even just the general other...
Not China, I think the whole world. Like,
the
it's
whole
not so
world,
pronounced in the other countries because they allow a lot of immigration to balance out the population.
That's the counter argument, right? So, like, that's why America has been so robust and resilient, is because of the immigration replacement rate, right? So, like, of course, fertility is declining, but we have enough, or at least the way our society is structured in America allows for that. And like, China is so homogenous and so walled off. Do you think this forces a liberalization in China then, if they really need to keep up?
It doesn't make sense for a country of 1.4 people. Where are you going to get people from? Like if you drop 30%, you're going to take 30% from the rest of the world? It's
well, people think on a nation by nation basis.
Yeah, it's like Singapore, no problem. You can balance out with 1-2 million people, and it's easy to get 1.2 million people from all over the world.
Yeah.
How do you get 300 million people? From where? Whole of America go to China. So, in this scale, you can only depend on yourself if you want to keep your country, your culture, whatever. If you're intent on being a... sorry, yeah.
You have to open more channels, though, don't you? Like, you yourself may not be enough. Like, there has to be some forced change, right?
I think the answer is very obvious, right? Somehow, the current population, through some mechanism, has to have more children. And whether, every country is doing it. They're putting out incentives, for people, to have more kids. Be it with cheaper healthcare, cheaper childcare, or tax breaks or whatever, But I don't think it's enough to get it going.
Jiang?
I mean, it's the same as we talk about the economy for incentives for business owners, right? I mean, you need something which is
very strong,
because plan for pregnancy and everything it's a huge undertaking, and especially for people who are well educated and sufficient affluent. I think and probably selfish because of that. They would think that, okay, why do I have to go through that kind of hassle, right? So it has to be something which is a little bit more drastic. I mean, I don't know, $500 per month kind of incentives. For many people, it's like quarter of the rent
is going to be the answer. Where
baby farms.
I don't know. Maybe it's very dystopian.
Wow.
It's called like ectobirth or something, where you create a womb outside. They have the technologies developing there, right? And then you just grow your population that way. I mean, it's a little bit dystopic, or I don't know, utopic. It depends on who you talk to. But do you think technology can be that bridge then that will get us to what? I mean, if you believe in Joon's thesis, we need to grow and maintain the wealth. I mean, I don't know to what means, because it's very capitalistic. You want to keep growing your wealth. I don't know to what ends you just because it's very capital.
Not wealth. I mean, to spur more technology, right? To fix more problems in this world, to make ourselves sustainable, we need more people, more brains, right?
But isn't the Thanos argument like, if your population grinds, that also
I don't
is
know.
sustainable
Like
in
we
itself?
haven't even got to the level of Kardashian, civilization level 5, right? Where we can harness
level 2, not even level
the
2,
total
not even level
energy
2.
of the sun,
Yeah.
So if we as a species, want to continue to grow and move up this scale of, advanced civilizations, right? We just need more people will get us there rather than less people.
If that's the goal. If that's
Of course,
the goal,
it's the goal. It's we should be on a path of continuous improvement, right? Towards
I don't know, man.
towards
been watching
what do you say? Towards Starfleet, yeah?
Well, okay. I like that idea, but I've been watching Yellowstone, and that's the exact opposite argument, right? This old rancher in Montana.
You're watching what?
Yellowstone, right? It's a very depending on maybe your view, it might be very American propaganda, but it's old Montana rancher who owns way too much land, like hundreds of thousands of acres, trying to maintain his way of life, keep it simple, don't change, go against it, like live with the land, there's no need for this change. Right. That's the other argument. Like, why do you need to grow towards Starfleet? Right.
That's a good philosophical question.
It is a philosophical question. But practically, back to your question about technology, I think the challenge is that this issue, I mean, down to the individual level, is not felt, right? I mean, climate change was not felt individually until you're hit by, I don't know, a storm, a fire, or whatever.
I agree.
So first, technology will probably take, like, I don't know, 2 decades, 3 decades to mature. And just look at how hard it is. I mean, maybe not the good energy, but how hard it is. They have been trying to grow meat in labs, right?
Yeah.
Not good analogy, but it is hard. So even if it becomes mature in 20, 30 years' time, I mean, all this public debate, I mean, to get all the governments to approve this and get all the people to accept this, and that will probably take a few decades as well. Probably takes a generation or two. So I think long term maybe you can be optimistic, but short term it's not going to be a fix.
Well, short term would be very painful,
and
right? Like for the people who have money, it's not going to be an issue. You won't feel them as much. You can move somewhere else, have another property. You can afford the high inflation. But for the majority or the average person who is affected by inflation or lives in these areas, it's going to be a very painful transition.
Let me flip this around to you, okay,
Sure.
Alex? What would it take for you to have 2 or 3 kids willingly? Nope. Like, if I give you $1 million, would you do it?
Dude, this is the perfect question for me because I'm going through it, right? I just had my first baby boy.
You had your first? Are you happy?
And like, look, I am happy.
Of course.
Right? It's a no, but look, it's a huge adjustment and it's a huge sacrifice to exactly what Jianggan said. We are inherently more selfish. We've grew up with more wealth. We're growing up at a time where you press buttons and things magically appear to your door.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the first time, like, we shit on Grab a lot in the past, but I'm a first time convert for GrabMart because I have my baby at home. I can't go out shopping anymore and I need some type of grocery. So I use it. Right. So we're living in a very different time. And I think really hard about having a second one because I'm like, while it's not as bad as I think having the baby, it is hard. I've done hard things in my life before, and I always continue to make myself in hard, challenging situations to be more resilient. But I think really hard, like, do I want to go through this again? And it's a big question mark if I will have a second one. Now, to answer your question, in order for me to have a second one, I would like to be very selfish and have my life as easy as possible, right? If I can afford a bigger house, I can afford more help. If I can hire another nanny that like lives in, right? Well, yeah, then I'll probably do it. Right. But you need to feel very secure. And with so much wealth that we're used to, we keep expecting more to maintain that in order to provide another replacement of another child. If you're thinking about it very economically, of course, the other way is just like, oh, I love it. We could sacrifice. It's not as important. It's good for my son to have a sibling. Right. So then there's the more of the human argument. But like economically, we're very driven by that. Like we're we're pausing. You think very hard. Like, do I really want to go through this again? Because it's not easy. So. My life I would need a lot more wealth, basically, and not like a crazy amount, just like a bump up where I don't have to worry about, their future, providing for their future. They're comfortable. They have the opportunities that I had, right? And it's much harder to do that. With one, I could probably do that easily. All right, so then I'm happy to stop there.
I also have all these concerns, right? Yeah, but I think the overarching cultural concern, I mean, the thing that solves whatever issues I have with this is just this. The wealth that I have or we have in our lives, right? We can use a bit of it, have a good life. But ultimately, what's the purpose of the wealth, is to be passed on.
That's
I always go back to this. I always go back to this thought.
That's an Asian mentality. No?
If I think this way, then I shouldn't have any problems with this, right?
It's like an
If
old
you're
Chinaman
stuck,
mentality.
if
sounds
you're
like a
stuck in
private bank
philosophy and you
or
can't make up your mind, just
switch
think about
towards
what the wealth is
liberalism.
for.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Gates will tell you to
Yeah.
give it away.
He's given enough, But it is really for the next generation. If you, I mean, all
Oh well, yeah. If you're
all personal conundrums and expectations are just how you want to frame your problem and how you want to think about it. It's a question of philosophy.
hold on, let's hear Jianggan. Jianggan, give me your thoughts on this.
No, I was just saying that that what June said sounds like advertisement of a private bank or a Swiss
Or maybe the
watch
Singapore government
brand.
have more babies, guys.
They tried very hard to make it happen, right? Even Lee Kuan Yew really pushed it.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
They
I
still
didn't
do.
think
They still
he
do.
went
It's very
far
hard.
enough, yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard. They can't force people, especially now. People like so are so individualistic, or they think they are so individualistic. It's
Yeah,
very
because
hard.
they can vote
I
you
mean,
out.
They are.
And also at the end of the day, if you look at East Asian societies, that people are so competitive, and I mean, especially the urban population. I mean, they expect their kids to have a better education. They expect their kids to have a better sort of, I don't know, health, I mean, better like musical talent, whatever. So all this, I mean, when people do the mental calculation, all this is cost and anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, like, I
Cost and
think
anxiety.
the other approach, like I said, is the human approach. You think of it as like, more love in the family. Don't stress about it. Like my father told me that after having me and my sister, he probably would have done it earlier, even though if it caused him to have less in his life because he just got so much joy, right? So there's a question, but not everyone is built that way either. Not everyone should have kids, right? It just will make more terrible people in the world if you're not a good person. So I don't know. It's a very personal choice. So.
Well, all the people I have worked with of our generation, and I think only one of them has like more than 2 kids, 3 kids. Oh no, sorry, only one of them who have more than 2 kids actually made that deliberate sort of action.
Yeah.
Sort of, okay, I wanted 3 kids and make it happen, and all the others just ask them why. What I mean, of course, the question is that okay, all the others want to have like 2 kids less or even
Yeah.
less, and why do we have 3 or more? And they said we just didn't think about it. It just came.
Yeah, for some people it's a very like instinctually natural thing, I think. But
Yeah, for them it's just okay. When it comes, we deal with it. And but for people who are planning, for people who are sort of calculating all the costs, for people who are looking at long term, and especially now, I think lots of people are going through some kind of anxiety. It's very hard.
that's why I think like it's a little bit of hubris to think you can plan and make it happen. I think it's just going to naturally average out one way or the other for what's better for our ecosystem living on Earth, because we're constrained to that for now, unless we become multi-planetary, right? It will wax and wane naturally if you just let it. It's like the invisible hand,
It's not really. I think there's a big problem. Like all this anxiety comes from okay, what's the 2 highest costs for kids? Education and housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having been in a developer industry, I do think developer profits are a bit insane, right? It's a bit out of whack for the amount of work that's done.
Or the quality.
Oh, it
given
used
of
to
the
be. It
product.
used to be, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like since China has slashed it by 30%, 40%, I don't know. Maybe it come down to a level, where it's a bit more fair. Yeah. So if you can fix these two anxieties, right? Education is cheap, which is great. It's kind of affordable in Malaysia. There's public universities, it's very cheap. It's crazy in the United States. It's very affordable in China and in most European countries. So this anxiety is taken care of. So I think 3 things, right? Housing, the selfishness of people to not plan for the future, right? About sacrificing current happiness for the future, right? So these 3 factors have to be taken care of. Then I think people would say, okay, yeah.
Joe, why do you think education is very affordable in China?
What's the tuition for like a big university there? Tuition for university, not
Affordable.
not extra classes
Not primary.
on the way to university.
Yeah, but that's not.
Yeah, but that's what the
Correct.
parents are going through for like 12 years, right, before
Correct.
university. I mean, at the university level, I mean, it's, I don't know, you can find financing, whatever the kids can pay for themselves after they graduate. But before that, I mean, that's a big hassle. Like in 12 years, and especially sort of urban middle class, you send your kids to all the like offline tuition and stuff, and
That
I think that's the whole purpose why the,
Well,
why the government
yeah, of course.
banned this online
Yes,
education.
they should
also-
level the playing field,
but-
and it's all
but also-
unnecessary. It's a pointless competition, to subject the kids to.
I'll give you a counter argument for the U.S.
go ahead.
education. I think in this day and age, there's too much of the fetishization of Ivy Leagues. This day and age, you don't necessarily need to go to college. Of course, it's beneficial, but also you don't need to go in Ivy League. There's so much access to technology and learning platforms and knowledge is out there, especially with AI coming. It's not a necessary thing. So you don't need to go to the most expensive prestigious university. There's a lot of affordable, good education already in America, and most of primary, secondary schools are public schools are good enough, right? They're good enough if you're in a good neighborhood. Of course, if you're in a poor neighborhood, yeah, that's it's a social economics problem. But for the average middle class, it's probably okay. It's good enough and it's affordable. So.
I don't know, but Alice, I think most American parents probably think that way. I think only Asian American parents think that the kids have to go to the Ivy League. Right?
No, it's it's probably a wealth thing. If you have money, you want your kids to go to the best. You want to give them advantages. Play all these stupid virtue signaling games.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're optimizing to their own egos for the kids to go there. I don't know what it is, but it's not necessary.
Let me also give you a number. The online education industry in China before it was banned, right? I've talked to a few operators. The customer acquisition cost on average, I think all of them were about 4,000 yuan,
Mhm.
What is that in US dollars?
which works out $600-700 customer acquisition
Yeah.
cost. So getting people to actually sign up, not paying. So imagine for you to recover that kind of cost. I mean, how much the parents will need to pay, and that's on top of what they are already paying to on this sort of off-campus tuition run by the teachers. And that's where the government also cracking down on that, saying that if you are working for a public school, you can't run private tuition centers outside.
I had the same problem when I was
And,
a kid over in Malaysia too. We also have a budgeting tuition industry. All my friends went to tuition after class, and the teachers would come from our old schools, and you pay, you might get leaked questions, of what's coming up next, test taking, advice, and it's basically that. But it wasn't so expensive, in Malaysia compared to I think in China. It was probably maybe 150 ringgit per month, right? Which is not a big percent of the income, yeah.
Once you have enough demand from parents, I mean, the price will go up.
Yeah. So maybe that didn't happen because the majority, of the population here didn't have that kind of mindset where you gotta give as much edge as possible to your kid, to compete with the rest of the kids.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious because I've been talking to quite a number of people who are on my age or 5-6 years older than me. Back then, when we went to high school in late 1990s or early 2000s, nobody went for tuition. Nobody. And at least people around me, and of course people. And I was talking to my uncles and stuff who have kids who are going through tuition now, and I was wondering what has changed. Then they told me that because it's getting more competitive. But I said it's not the case. I mean, because back in our days, for you to get into elite university, for you to get to Tsinghua, it's as hard as it is today. And for you to get into a normal university, it was actually easier. No, it's actually easier now because the universities have expanded. You get more sort of places that you can get into. So what has changed in people's psyche? Maybe the expectations have risen. I don't know.
No,
maybe
that's what the
people have more
government
wealth,
said. It creates a perverse incentive because if I know someone's doing it, then I got to get my
Chinese
child to do it. Otherwise, they lose out. So that's the whole perverse ecosystem that was created by these tuition centers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the whole initiative by the government to actually reduce course load in schools actually creates more demand off campus because when I was
interesting.
When I was in high school, you know what's the schedule like? 6:30 to 11:40, and then 1:30 to 5:40, then 7 to 9:30.
He suffered.
well,
So you don't have to have extra tuition anymore.
So I have a friend who works in Shanghai in the education consultancy space, and she was telling me about this last year when I was visiting, that a big part of this is to make children a bit more well-rounded and not to force them into it. So it's interesting that the second order effect, what Jianggan is saying, is that with more free time, they want to put in more tuition. So tuition is extracurricular, classes outside of school for people who don't know. But so they want to force them into more tuition. But then the point was actually to allow them to do sports or play instruments or be more critically thinking, engage in other activities to develop them, right? So you're not always in this.
You have a social life.
Yeah, correct. So I think that was like from what she told me, that was the end goal of it. So I don't know if that's happened, but it's to develop the youth in a different way.
I'm 100% sure that my younger cousins who grew in sort of affluent coastal areas now, with much better wealth in a household compared to when I was 20 years ago, they have less time for social life. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
That's sad.
I think that's the issue all across.
Well, do you think that factors down into when the youth hits the workforce and that they're disillusioned because they work like literally slave their whole life to come to an economic situation that's not ideal?
That
their schooling, enjoy the wealth.
Their schooling time up to Gaokao was way harder than their first few years at work.
What is Gaokao for the international audience?
Yeah, I mean your final year exams, right? Your
college entrance exam. So basically, in China, there's a system where you go through examination after third year of your senior high school, and based on how you rank in the exam at the provincial level, and then you get picked into different universities. So obviously that itself is a system which has been criticized year after year because it's just, I mean, for 1 full year, the last year of your senior high school, you do nothing but preparing for this exam. And I escaped because I came to Singapore when I was in the second year of senior high school. But when I went back to China to see my former comrades, I mean, like a week before the exam, everybody got fat. They said, okay, I mean, we don't have time for sport. We don't have, I mean, we were just spending all the time preparing for the exam. So, and also that thing itself creates lots of weird activities, right? So for instance, so I'm from a province in the coastal area where it's, I think, one of the two most competitive in terms of exams because of the education level there. And and then our county had this exchange scheme with the county in Yunnan, close to Vietnam. So basically every year they will send a few like bureaucrats and teachers there to work in public service there. And all these people, I mean, the biggest incentive for them to move to a poor county in Yunnan province is that their kids can attend exams there, where it's not competitive. I mean, where it's much less competitive compared to where they're from.
Let me share you a personal anecdote, right? When I was younger, I was like in standard 6, I think. So that was like when I was 11, 12 years old. All right. So I do really well in science. I'm in the science team. I go to science competitions and the rest. So there's one time, for the whole year in science, I got A's, right? A high A, like 95 plus, for the first 3 term exams. Yeah. And then for the fourth one, there's just so much extra work and homework to do, before we have to take the test. Yeah. And I really didn't want to do it. So I told my teacher, why do I have to do all this homework? I've sat in class, I listened to your lecture, I understand it completely. Yeah. Why do you want to? I don't want to do all this homework. I can just take the test later on, right? Then she says, "Oh, you got to do it." Then I said, "Okay, I've already gotten 3 A's, right? If I were to not take this test, right, do you think I'll get an A?" So if that's the case, that I will get an A anyways, if I have to take the test, why do you test me?
What did he say?
He said, you have a good point. I think that's where I slowly learned, right, that, there are very smart people and very, very smart people. And these people, no matter what, if you test them or not test them, they get an A.
But that's kind of true, because back in my days, the amount of time that people spend to get A actually varies a lot individually.
Yes. Some people study 1 hour, get A. Some people got to cram 20 hours to get it.
Yeah, so then it goes back to the whole discussion of whether education should be standardized or customized, and if it's customized, how do you do that?
I agree.
It's complex issues.
Well, I think the technology is helping us get there. Like I thought about this problem because I always knew standardized academia was just really, it's not meant for my style of learning. But like you can't, like back then, from the
Did you mean that you didn't get A's enough?
I got A's, but not enough for sure. I'm a typical Asian American, man. I didn't do that great. I'm bad at math. So, but like I had thought about the problems, right? And like standardization from post World War II made sense, but like technology could not keep up with it. But I think with the rise of, we've seen the evolution, with all the Udemy's and Khan Academies, but now we're seeing the next evolution where AI can actually customize a learning experience and optimize for the way you learn best. So especially the rise of other technologies, AR and VR, like there's no reason why the school systems can't integrate these to customize learning at scale and make for better, productive, member of society, right? Like it's definitely, I think we're on that cusp, but I don't know how that, manifests though. It's policy, it's, politics, it's messy. Maybe China can do it better, faster. I don't know. Maybe America will get there eventually.
I think education policy itself is super complex, and I mean technology is there. How you use the technology, who uses the technology, and what else do you use on top of technology, and which vendor do you trust with the technology? I mean, case in point, Malaysia. But I think these are all these issues which will affect the outcomes. I still think. I'm not sure, June, if you have experience. So my experience of having various interns in the past is that people from China and people from France, Germany, and Switzerland, continental Europe, and Eastern Europeans, they tend to do calculations much faster compared to people who are from Commonwealth countries. Yeah. So I mean, maybe my sample size was not high, but generally, continental Europeans and the East Asians calculate much faster than people from the Commonwealth, including Australia, including the UK.
Yeah. It's just when you're young, how much practice you have with math, right? The more you practice it, the better you are. It's obvious, right? Yeah. So I think education at this point it's a way to select ranking. It's just a ranking system, and ranking determines where you end up. Yeah. But I think the whole time spent in school, there isn't so much need for so many hours to ace tests, right? But I think it should be more catered towards, okay, how bright you are and how much information you can absorb in a given amount of time. So, I wish, I had more books to read when I was in high school, rather than the textbooks. So I think everyone has a different pace of how much they can absorb and how fast they can do things. Yeah. So it should be, they should just realize this fact and lean towards this kind of outcome where bright kids learn more, right? Other people, maybe should learn different skills.
But then this we're talking about education policy, which has always been controversial. Singapore's like streaming kids in the third year of primary school, you are already like streamed based on how capable you are, and of course there's this argument that there are people who are slow starters, right? They only start showing potential in the fourth year or even in high school. So basically you are depriving these kids of their opportunities. And then from a policy point of view and from a macro point of view, it probably makes sense because most smart kids and most not dumb kids, but most not so smart kids would get to a position which sort of is corresponding to their capabilities.
My theory on this is, right?
Yeah.
This has a lot to do with age. Yeah. Like the youngest kid in the class, the scientists have proven, they have a much higher chance of being the first because they're biologically just like 10, 11 months older. And if you have met a 6 and 7-year-old kid, right, there's a big world of difference. 7, 8, 9. Like when I was tutoring my nephew, he was still a monkey, but he was already 10. And he really matured only at 11. So just by delaying 1 year, you can get a very different outcome of how well they perform in their cohort.
Well, that's because you're optimizing towards a standardized system.
Okay,
right? That's the constraints you're optimizing.
Exactly. So I think age is something that people are not considering here, right? If you take an 18-year-old and put him in a year 13 class, he's likely going to be one of the best students, no matter what.
Well, yeah. But I mean,
I remember seeing a study. I can't remember the exact details, but I remember seeing a study like years ago saying that people born in autumn tend to perform better academically in China.
Of course, they're 1 year older. They're 1 year older.
obviously, I mean, the problem then people later realize is that the cut-off line for admission is the 1st of September, which means that, okay, when you are born in autumn, you go to the next cohort. And by the time you enter school, you're already 11 months, 12 months older than people who just met the cut-off line and went to school
To
early.
me, right, I think people should go to secondary school as a boy. If you have armpit hair, okay, you can enter. Otherwise, you stay back 1 year. Because really, you're not prepared. You're still a boy. You're not yet a teenager. Right? So physically, you look for signs for puberty. This is one way.
I think
this is one way to balance out this
think-
biological age difference,
But they look, in East Asian society, if you set a rule that way, and you know what they create, right?
Give steroids.
This is perverse incentives, right? Look,
No, it's not
I
reverse.
think
it's a biological fact that people grow up at different
no, but
rates.
it's like exactly what Jiang's saying. The second order effects is like you're going to give like steroids to a little boy who doesn't need it, right? Like, come on.
Steroids and stuff.
But look, so yeah, then it gets become like Brave New World, right? So giving drugs to babies. But no, I think there needs to be more nuance in standardized tests. It needs to evolve. And I think like what Joon's talking about is very European syphilis education system, and then what Jianggan was saying, like the other argument is very American system, right? So I think you need kind of a blend of both. You need to account for other skills in your economy or other options where a kid might not naturally gear towards one way, you gear them towards another way. But at the same time, you do want to provide that optionality that if they developed later. I think both systems need to give and take, and I think technology can help really get there. It's just, no, the pros and cons of each system. If my father from Vietnam went to Europe versus America, he would not have achieved what he has. He would have been streamlined into something that he wouldn't be good at or not like and be like a trade worker. Whereas, he could go to a state school, get like a PhD, but then, he achieved so much more in the American system because they gave the opportunity. Whereas in Europe, you're screwed.
Maybe he would have built the largest instant noodle factory in Ukraine instead.
I don't know, man. It's hard to say, but look, that's his personal
He could have been
anecdote
the richest
and
man
his
in Vietnam,
feeling.
no?
Nah, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, who built the instant noodle factory in Ukraine?
Yeah, but he's more free in America, so.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I read a lot of internet podcasts where I can just say things that I think are true. So yeah, it's a very interesting thing we're talking about, education of kids. I have my views, you have your views, everyone has their views. It's great that at LLB we can just speak our views.
Well, what's more important is you got to test those views and make a baby, June.
I already told you, if my baby is born late in the year, I'm going to delay its enrollment. That's a fact. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say he's sick or something like that, so he comes to school with a 1 year advantage.
All right, guys, let's.
I understand it's a ranking system, so why will I want to lose out here?
Okay, before June goes too wild, let's close out the last section. So I think we have a lot of good discussion before that.
Okay.
I had a very good discussion with Dave. I wish Dave was here because this is all credits to Dave and him talking to his friend. So the idea is, will there be war in Taiwan? Right?
Oh.
And so there's two lines of thought here that came from the friend. I think the friend lives in China or Taiwan or something like this. And the first line of argument is that China will only go to war with Taiwan if they know for 100% they will win. Right? Why? Because of the one-child policy. So all the people who will be sent to war to die are literally their only sons, right? And if they all die and there's a chance of losing, it's not going to be politically feasible. No one's going to want to send their kid to go die. So they would only do that if they really know they're going to win. So less than 100% chance, like 99%, they won't do it probably, right? The other second line of thought is that because of the population decline over time, now is the best time to actually go to war. Right? If they don't act now, 10, 20 years from now, they're in a position where they actually literally can't take over because they don't have the population to sustain a war. Right? So if you put those two together, it seems very unlikely that would ever happen in this lifetime, at least for us.
So even the military things, population is the key factor here.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Right? So at least that's one line of thought from the local insight, right? So I don't know what you guys think. The other scenario is this, where they're given no choice. America outright declares that Taiwan is an independent nation, then they have no choice, right? And to me, the liberal in me screams that, well, the only feasible way is that if you put a wild card as a president, and who would that be? Trump maybe might say something like that by accident, right? So
yeah, okay.
But
about the population argument, right? I think it's a bit weird because if you look at Ukraine, Russia, they're at hundreds of millions of population, right? But only 1-2 million are exposed at the war. right?
So
There's a certain amount you can commit to a battlefield, right? So between 1.4 billion and 30 million, right, and that little small island over there, at most maybe 2-3 million, would be at the front line. Yeah. If any more dies above that, it has to be nuclear war.
No, so I look. I'm glad you brought it up because Dave also brought this up as a point. The book, The Prisoners of Geography, outline exactly why this happened. They actually predicted this war because existentially, throughout history, Ukraine has been always the point of entry where Russia was invaded, right?
Yeah, it's a borderland,
So
of course.
yeah, well, but well, there's other borders, but it's not very feasible.
Flat and borderland, yeah.
But the difference is that like Russia is facing the same problem of population decline. And it was much more existential because NATO kept pushing up to the border. There were promises made where they wouldn't be done. So it's like Putin had to do the calculus where we have the population now, and so they had to do it, right? So like that's the exact argument. So like it made sense from a Putin perspective.
Yeah.
That if he waits 10 years from now, 20 years, it's just not going to be possible. Right.
To
So
solve
that's the
it,
argument.
right? You have the military advantage, population, technology, and like enough weapons. But I think it's very clear, the party has said if they have renounced the use of, they will not renounce the use of force and will only do so, if they declare independence. But here's the thing. How do we know what the US thinks, Like just like that, a war starts, in Israel, a war starts in Yemen,
correct.
a war starts in
it's crazy.
everywhere, Iraq. So within a snap of a finger, conflict starts.
Well,
So that's,
go ahead, Jack.
that's exactly the thing, right? I mean, big countries, they don't trust each other. They need deterrence.
Yeah.
They need capabilities, and they need to draw some red lines so that they know that, okay, the others are not going to.
Well, if you see what has panned out in Ukraine and Russia, it's clear that nuclear superpowers can decide to say, hey, let's just fight a proxy war. It has been done over and over again. US, Soviet Union in Vietnam, right? So they know, okay, we can risk a proxy war, right? But there will be no nukes involved.
Yeah, but
and that happens in the snap of a finger.
Yeah, but that's going to backfire so hard with Ukraine, right? Like, look at it. It's just like what we talked about last episode.
Yeah, the whole country's
like that whole foreign policy, like from the Kissinger time forward, is just so bad.
So it's very likely that the same can happen in Taiwan, because Taiwan, by definition, will be a proxy war. It'll be fought near the seas of Taiwan and in Taiwan.
Well, that's what I wrote in the newsletter, right? I think because of the situation that Dave pointed out, which is very insightful, the only leverage China has is economics, right? You either make it way too sexy to want to join or at least continue relations, right? Economically make your life better and better. And then, the only way is or the opposite, you cut them off, right? So that's the only lever China can pull. So realistically, war won't happen, but it will happen, like you said, maybe on a cold front, like a Cold War type scenario or economic scenario, right? Jianggan, what do you think?
I just put the population trends of Russia and Ukraine. Maybe Alex, you can include in the show notes later. So I look at the declines that the Russia and Ukraine had since 1990. I mean, in terms of magnitude, it's probably about the same. It's about 5-10 million people. But of course, Russia is 3 times larger. So 5-10 million people decline compared to Ukraine's 5-10 million decline is probably very different. And Russia also has, probably kind of sad to say, but Russia has all these ethnic minorities, which the government cares nothing about.
Well, that's almost every major country, no?
Yeah, but Ukraine doesn't have that many.
Oh yeah, Ukraine's a smaller country though.
Yeah, so what happened is that I read some report somewhere that if you look at the Russian army fighting on the front line, there's actually a disproportionate number of soldiers coming from this republic in Siberia called Britaria or whatever, which is ethnic Mongolian.
Also Dagestan,
sort of a republic. Dagestan is Muslim, right? Turkey or whatever. Muslim, right? Turkey or Iranian, but Muslim population. So you do have lots of people coming from those areas, which they care not much about. And from a government point of view, it probably helps them with the balance of demographics. So I don't know. I mean, if you trust that argument, maybe in future, they will do that even more.
Yeah.
Even though the population in Russia declines. Now back to China. I think that argument of the demographics, I don't know how much that carries weight, but what I do see quite often happens is that I got my source from somebody in China, therefore it must be true. It must
Oh
reflect
no, of course
what the
not.
policymakers
Yeah,
in China
yeah.
think about it. So, but the war thing, I do think that there are lots of things which are said which are deterrents.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll never renounce the war, because if you do renounce and if Taiwan declares independence, what do?
Yeah.
Renounce your
Your
renouncement.
leader will lose huge amount of
It's a little
Huh?
little hard at that point. Just kidding. It was a mistake.
actually, for a big country, they probably can.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's true.
But then it becomes a sort of a what do? You don't renounce your renouncement, but you renounce your renouncement and then you go to war.
Well,
But if you don't renounce before the war, then you
I
don't
think
have
a
to go
lot
to
of
the war.
these geopolitical experts think that China is just really worried about if there is a fight over there, what would happen to their economy. So it's the consequences of the invasion or the fight that they're most worried about. Not whether they'll win militarily or not. Yeah, militarily or not. So what happens war breaks out and then sanctions and the whole world sanctions China. So that's the biggest outcome, right? That's the biggest thing that's supposed to collapse China, and they're in a different position than Russia, because Russia is completely Russia was sanctioned. It turns out they were quite self-sufficient, right? They
yeah. Well,
basically
they have oil, so
yeah, they redirected all Western exports and started going to new markets like India and China.
Yeah, but
And
not
everything
every
shifted there. But it's not
Correct.
possible for China to shift what they export
correct.
to the West now, to anyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're in
exactly.
different
So-
position.
And also, you think about it, that why the Chinese government has spent so much subsidies to a point that for lots of economists, the economists, that it doesn't make sense anymore on things like wind turbines, like new energy cars. They know that they are not sort of self-sufficient in terms of energy. And for them to be ready and to have that, I don't know whether they want to start a war or whether they want to have enough deterrence, they need to have a much higher level of energy self-sufficiency.
energy security. Which does that mean they're going to be leading the way in terms of renewables, and that will help solidify their power?
If I was a military strategist, right, you know what I'd do? Any party that declares independence, right, I'll just hunt that party down. Nothing else. I wouldn't touch your bases. I wouldn't touch your military. I'll just go for that little naughty party that keeps making trouble, and that's just a few people. Why not? It makes more sense.
and
You
to be
get
honest-
rid of this thorn of a party that you don't like, but you spare everything else. And maybe the US would respond to that, not with outright military fight, but with something more light, right? Because it's tit for tat. Like, you don't go to a war for someone you just assassinate over there, right? It's not different than an invasion.
And if you think about that, I mean, why do you have to go through a tough invasion?
You don't-
I mean, the Houthis in Yemen can block the Red Sea. I mean, why can't China block the Taiwan sea
They
lanes?
have done that after Pelosi
Yeah.
came. Yeah. So I think the likely outcome
I mean,
is the
Houthis
naughty
can-
leader would get taken out.
Jianggan, what are you saying?
Yeah, you see?
I said the Houthis can block the Red Sea even with American and British ships patrolling there.
Yeah. Well, that's
So blockade is not.
then for such a small minority, it has such an outsized global effect. Sabrina was telling me the shipping costs already for her products are already up 20%. So because of
man.
this, it's like inflation already. Like if this doesn't resolve, it's gonna one tiny little blockage has huge domino effects for years, right? It took so long to rebuild, transportation capacity, and it's not even fully back up, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty still.
Did you guys follow this strike that Iran did in Pakistan and tick for tack that Pakistan sent some missiles into the territory of Iran?
Yeah, I saw the missile article this morning that they were.
The whole thing is completely weird, right? I mean, sort of Iran struck the territory of Pakistan and killing some Iranian rebels who were based in Pakistan. Then Pakistan struck Iran and killing some people which Iran said are not their nationals.
Wow.
Then around the same day, I think they had some joint military naval exercise somewhere
I think
else.
Iran is
Is this-
showing that it can strike. It struck in Iraq, it struck in Pakistan,
Syria as well.
yeah, Syria as well. So they're
Yep.
just trying to show their ballistic
Yeah.
missiles and their intelligence is all over the region.
I kind of feel that this Iran-Pakistan kind of strike is sort of mutually planned, right? Okay, I kill my rebels in your territory.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
chase
yeah.
people up,
You
I
think
think
so?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we both issue a protest, and then we both showcase to the world that we can strike.
Yeah, it could
I
be.
mean,
So you don't see this as like organically just spreading.
I think
Well, partially, right?
I think it's
I mean,
planned.
even though it's planned though, but it
planned.
was the planning is allowed because of the current conflicts. So
They probably wanted to do that a long time
yeah,
ago.
they had no
and
reason
then we
to.
need to find the sort of,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, even Jordan is striking Syria, so
Yemen is also striking, sending missiles across Saudi Arabia to the other countries too. Right, so it's just like I don't know. I feel like this is just getting worse and worse.
Yes.
I'm not on ground enough to
That's true.
understand what's
Yeah.
going on, but it looks to me that it looks quite risky
Yeah.
because I mean, you could have lots of like sort of on the table arrangements between different governments. So okay, I shoot a missile to your territory, so you just issue a protest and you shoot a missile back. Don't kill my people, kill your people in my country, and I issue a protest and
Yeah.
boom. But but there might be
Oh, yeah, for
miscalculations,
sure.
right? I mean, your missile might go astray, and you might kill other people. I mean, during the
Then you have to
process,
escalate,
I don't
right?
know.
Escalate.
Yeah, so
It's
judging by
dangerous.
this, right, on the escalation ladder, right, even in Russia, Ukraine, the first escalation was actually a coup. Yeah. So very rarely you jump straight to all out, kinetic brigade versus brigade kind of war. So I think in Taiwan it'll be similar. It'll be a coup, or it'll be a change in power, or it'll be some assassination before it goes to missiles flying here and there. What do you think?
I won't be surprised that there is enough sort of espionage or even sort of collaboration going on the ground. I mean,
Yeah,
this
for
is what the
sure.
communists have been very good at for the past, I don't know,
I
century.
don't know. It's very risky too. Like if it's caught and uncovered and proven, I don't know. It's a lot of risk. Unless they come to Malaysia, that's a place where you go to get assassinated. Apparently.
Yeah, they can get you anywhere, right?
I do think spies are indoctrinated to a certain extent that you don't care about personal safety anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, remember in the past they carried this like suicide pills, right?
This is just media. The average spy is probably a very boring, like average-looking fat dude, right, who you don't expect. I think it's a lot more. I think
Those are
the
the
truth
good
is a lot more
spies.
boring than you
Those are
think.
the good spies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
just
They
the
let the
James Bond
bad
stuff is just
spies.
nonsense
They let the bad spies get caught, for a reason.
for a reason. Yes, correct.
Yeah, to frame somebody, right, or to plant misinformation.
Just like how Pakistan struck Iran, killing some Pakistani rebels, and then Iran issued a protest, then objective on both sides achieved.
Yeah. So generally, I don't think there'll be war. There's this U.S. can't import things from. I mean, the trade between the two of them is too big to be cut off. Or they can put their trade differences aside, which we have seen countries do no problem, right? Or we can fight, but we can still trade because it's over a proxy.
Yeah. Like I see
Over
what
a
you mean.
proxy. They can say we can fight here, but we can still trade. No problem.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
That's how the world works. It's like
That's
we
new.
can't have it's all one way. No problem. We can have an argument here. We can have a fight over here. We can work together here. That's how it works.
Well, it's a little bit different with Russia though, right? Because they tried to sanction Russia, but
Yeah, but they still buy oil from Russia. The gas still flows.
not U.S. right?
Europe,
Yeah.
through Ukraine.
Is Europe still buying to a degree?
Yes.
Yeah.
See?
Okay.
So, the world's like that. A fight is a fight.
All right.
But business is business.
Do you have any final thoughts or any other topics you want to cover before we close out?
Uh,
I have some final question to ask you guys. What do you guys think about the Millet speech? Javier Millet at the
Argentina?
Davos?
that speech, I was going to listen to it.
Yeah.
What was it good? What did he say? What do you think of this guy? He's a bit he's a bit of wacko.
Can you give the context? Give the context for the audience.
Yeah.
So basically, the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, who just took power, I think a few weeks ago, went to Davos and he delivered a speech saying that, okay, we Argentine know it the best, right? I mean, over the last, I don't know how many years, throughout history, most people were living in extreme poverty, and capitalism lifted everyone out of poverty in the last years. And of course, I mean, some people are becoming richer, but overall, I mean,
Yeah, on average.
everyone is well off. And of course now in the West, there's this trend towards equality, towards socialism, and we Argentine know it the best. That is, it will only lead to poverty. And then he ends the speech by "God damn it, damn it."
Well,
Yeah.
what do you think will happen? I think I'll be very surprised, if Argentina recovers.
You'll be very surprised that Argentina recovers. Why?
Because they're already in a state, where they're at the bottom of the pit, and they're trying to crawl out of a situation that's pretty hard to come out of. No matter who is there, I think it's an impossible situation.
Wait, so can you clarify the point of the speech? Like, what was his end goal? Like, what was he trying?
The point is,
Yeah.
I think the point is pointing towards the West, and he said there's a drift towards socialism, and he said socialism and drift towards socialism towards left, and he said it's never worked, and history has shown that socialism only leads to worse outcomes and poverty.
Well, I don't know about that outcome specifically, but I do kind of agree where like America's very late stage capitalism, where it's very much there's too much wealth and we're not manifesting a future, and a lot of the problems that we see in America are a result of kind of like where that pendulum has swung, or maybe even rooted in the system itself. So I think that, I mean, I was talking about this with Dave as well, so maybe we try to get him back on to talk about this again, but I think that we are not at a point where we're manifesting our future anymore. Like, we're still living off the 80s and 90s mentality of, indefinite optimism, where it's just, it's going to be great forever, instead of trying to build a very concrete future, invest and grow towards something. And I think the problems we see are all that wealth from that expansionary growth in the golden ages is what maybe the president is saying. It's just it's trending towards not really good stuff. It's virtue signaling and like just posturing on political topics that don't even matter towards the future. So I kind of agree that like I don't know if it's even socialism, because like in America there are social programs, but it's not very socialistic, right? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's very hard to say where it will land, whether it be more like definite planning like China, or maybe America can swing the other direction and we can go back to a point in time where we have common goals and manifest a better future. I don't know. What do you guys think?
True.
I don't know. I think state capitalism is a good thing. There has to be a balance between private capital and state capital. I think that's a mixed economy like that. It's more fruitful. You have
Right, but
you have like important sectors like commodities, energy, infrastructure, communications, research and development. There's a huge state participation, and a lot of consumer stuff, technology stuff. Leave it to the private guys. So everyone benefits this way.
yeah, but are we trending towards socialism, and is it going to lead towards ruin? I think that's the point, right?
Do
you see this anywhere?
I think what Millet is saying, is welfare, not like
welfare.
not the industrial policy of a country, not a socialist industrial policy, but more of a social welfare policy that caused Argentina's problems.
Is that your interpretation, Jianggan?
There was actually debate amongst certain sort of academics or also influential figures in China about, look, this guy's sort of criticizing socialism because China is still nominally socialist, right? But then the argument is that what his critique is probably towards all these left-leaning policies, all this so equality based kind of equal outcome kind of based policies in the West. And I actually read his original transcript in Spanish. I think it's pointing about the policies and in the West rather than the socialism as you see in sort of communist countries or Northern Europe. And he's pointing here at a trend where people care more about sort of equal outcome rather than sort of giving the private.
Oh, that's a huge topic.
Freedom
We could talk about that next time.
Yeah.
I think Dave has a lot to say about that.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's actually true. Like, if that's what you're talking about, where we're manifesting to a point of equal outcomes, which we kind of see in Malaysia, like, instead of, equal opportunities.
We haven't got equal outcomes yet.
Well, that was the big policy push, right?
Even
And
with
I don't
unequal
know.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Equal outcome is an oxymoron, it's just philosophically, you think about it logically, how can it be?
Yeah.
Don't know why people try to shoot
Yeah,
for it.
so-
What's the point of equal outcome, right?
That's
Should just
also
be a
what
higher
I have
outcome.
been trying to understand what this common prosperity actually means.
Yeah, I don't know how they want to go around that. Maybe there's a base, that could be okay. Don't trim the excess, lower the base.
Yeah, I just finished rereading the Malay Dilemma, and that there's a whole chapter on that of like what is.
Have you read that book, Jianggan?
It's like yeah,
By Dr. Hadia?
No, by Mahathir, yeah.
yeah, Mahathir, yeah, and there's
No, I
that
haven't.
whole section about the argument is because the Malays at the time in this after the racial riots in 1969 were much more disadvantaged. So you have to, in order to provide equal outcome, you need to raise them, because otherwise they'll be destroyed by the the Chinese people. So, but like I don't know, that was just like I don't think we can say too much about it because it's very sensitive, but like it's a very interesting perspective.
I think it worked a lot. The pie certainly got bigger. A lot
Oh
of
yeah,
them,
for sure.
A lot of
For sure.
the generational professionals now are the products of this policy. But the wealth base of the Chinese grew too, but grew too much faster, because that's what happens with capital.
Yeah.
The more you have, the bigger it grows.
Yeah, correct.
It's the 80-20 or the 99-1 rule, right? Not 80-20
Yeah.
anymore. 99-1.
Yeah.
A 98-2
Yeah.
kind of rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So basically, are you saying that for groups, I mean, majority or minority in societies which are disadvantaged, that's because they don't have, either they don't have sufficient capital or they're not sufficiently capitalist?
both. They start a smaller amount of capital, start a different culture, start with different education, start with different life goals. So obviously, all this, all this has to be. You can't have equal outcome when one set has a different starting line, right? Different culture, different level of capital, different involvement in industry. Yeah, and
what?
they're just
Why
going
is
to
this?
grow their own way.
I don't know about Europe, but like in the US though, it's trending towards a lot of these like liberal ideas are trending towards more equal outcome versus equal opportunity. Why is this the case?
Well,
You are from the US.
US.
You know
yeah,
it better.
you guys have the same kind of disparity, right? Like the blacks and Hispanics don't have much wealth, as compared to the.
That's different. I think it's a little bit different historically speaking,
Yeah.
right? At least for the Black American experience, that was actual structural with slavery, institutional, and it kind of persists today.
Yeah.
But
They started.
I don't know.
which
I think it's just tied to, like I said before, it's also ties to the same reason our discussion about having children. You get too wealthy, you have too much leisure time on your hand, and then you're making up problems to fight about because your liberal ideas lead you there.
Huh?
So it's not really. It's like they'll complain about it, but instead of actually going to the grassroots level and making the change, they'll just go on a platform and opine about it, and you get people canceled and this kind of thing. And then it shifts the conversation towards they're very selfish and they want to have their cake and eat it. They want the equal opportunities too, without being actually affecting change, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's tied to the wealth.
And back to John's point, right? When you are not from the same starting line, it's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. You have to do much harder to have the same outcome.
Yes, and even if you reset it,
So
it doesn't guarantee within 1-2 years people are on different starting lines altogether. A lot can happen in just 1 year after a reset.
Yeah.
And that's what like the historical experience of China too. They reset and they look at it. They're still bureaucrats. They are still intellectuals. They're still
So then the point is that how do we define the starting line, right? Because people talk about starting line as the starting line of the same wealth. I mean, everybody's poor, but starting line can also be, I mean, I don't know, your exposure, your education. I mean, how fast you can do calculations and all these things.
I don't think you should expect equal
It's not
outcomes
that-
if people are not equal. It's just not possible.
Well,
Right.
people are not. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
equal.
but to bring them all up, to raise the bar as Singapore has done, or many countries that are more logical has done, that's the only thing outcome you can expect. Yeah, and of course you can
Yeah,
always
I agree.
redistribute. If it's too excessive, tax and redistribute. It's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah,
needs
I
$50 billion,
agree.
right? Yeah. Compel them to invest. Compel them to fund things, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not,
That's where the
it's
hint-
not a
yeah.
tax. You got to say, you know, you got to have more factories. You got to have factories that have a higher wage, right? All these things are okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is a good conversation to continue for another time. We're running over.
Yeah.
I think it was a very good conversation. Probably have to distill some ideas and make some points that we could continue the conversation on. But I think it's a very important topic. This idea of equal opportunities versus equal opportunity, equal outcomes versus equal opportunities, and very relevant for where we are in today's society. Thanks for the time, guys. And if there's nothing else, then I guess we can let you guys go.
Okay. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.